I grabbed some photos off the internet of wood sheeting being used on construction sites for shallow excavations. We use these things a lot. The difference between our jobs and these jobs seem to be clean and dry, and we are always in muck because the water table in Baton Rouge is like 3 feet below the ground. But anyway, this is where the sheets came from that I made my floor out of. So when loggers go in the woods and cut trees, the best ones go to the veneer factories for plywood. The next best ones go for lumber, like for real flooring. And the crappy stuff is for pallets and truck mats and wood sheeting. This is what we have. Flooring in this room is hardwood planks. I believe they're 1.5 inches thick. I don't really remember. I planed them all. They were scraps from construction. They were wood sheeting, mixed hardwoods, and I thought they were dry when I put them down, but they have shrunk in a bunch in the last 20 years. And the cracks are one thing, but when they shrank, the fasteners came loose. So the floor does a lot of creaking when you walk on it, which I'm not crazy about. And there were a couple of bad spots that over the years have just failed. Like this edge right here, you can see the spline. See, this one shrunk so much that the joint's exposed. And I don't know what's going on with this one. I think the kids, my grandkids must have poked a hole in it. Looks like powder post beetles, so we need to get rid of that one. So anyway, I'm gonna take all these boards up and take them outside, run them through the planer, take off a little bit, join them, get the straight edges again, and replace or redo whatever I have to do with the spline joint, and bring them all back and put them all back in, which is gonna mean they're gonna be skinnier. So I'm gonna have to add probably 2 more new rows to make up for the loss. Well, plus if you close up all these cracks, you're gonna lose a lot. And if I get rid of the bad planks. So anyway, these boards are heavy. These are hardwood, 1.5 inches thick. I'm 20 something years older than I was when I put this floor down. So I needed all the help I can get to haul these planks back and forth. And that's what this little buggy's for. And I think it's gonna work just right. I just drilled a hole in the floor in a bad piece of wood. I know this one's gonna be swapped out because I couldn't remember exactly how thick the boards were, but I thought they were 1.5 inches, and it kind of measures as 1.5 inches. I put a little wire down there and hooked it and measured it 2 or 3 times. So I'm gonna start making some new boards, and I'm gonna make them 1.5 inches. Get a few ready before we start. Probably gonna need 2 full new rows once this shrinks all up, and I cut the crooked edges off of them. So my room is 26 foot long, and I know that I need 1.5 inches boards. Or actually, I don't have to have 1.5 inch boards. I could shim them, but that's gonna mess with my joints. So I want them all to be 1.5 inches. Well, let me take that back. Since I'm gonna plane all the ones that are there, they'll be a little bit less than 1.5 inches, but I'm gonna start out with 1.5 inches. Pull down these boards. These are sycamore. Not the best wood in the world, especially since I've picked through my sycamore pile, and these are the last ones. But I'm hoping to get enough to go 26 feet all the way across the room, kind of as a filler. I'm gonna put these under the sofa. They won't really show, but they'll help make up for all the room I'm gonna lose by trimming the existing boards. So obviously we're gonna cut some boards here. We've got a bowl here. We'll cut the terrible ends off and see if I can maybe get 26 foot stretch by putting all these together end to end, and then I'll have to rip them to the narrowest board, which is probably this one, and then glue a doubler to get them 1.5 inches. So I'm started. This is the first step. I'm started. So after trimming the questionable ends, I probably already don't have enough to make it across the room because this one's twisted like real bad. Can't do much with that one. I have a couple more upstairs. I think I can make 1 row, probably this wide from one end of the room to the other. I'm gonna start running these through the thickness planer. But they're real lumpy, and there's a big lump right here. If I just run this through the planer will squash it flat, or try to, and then plane it, and then when it comes out the other side, it'll bounce right back. So I'm gonna take my little hand plane and try to knock off some of these high lumps, and then hopefully by the time I have it, there's one here too. By the time I have it down to around 3/4 of an inch, it'll be flat and stay flat. And also when I glue another layer on it, that'll help pull it flat too, but it's not even really close right now. I gotta do some preliminary work with the hand plane. Plank number 1. I ran it till it's 7/8 of an inch thick. It's pretty flat. Pretty good shape. Got some sapwood right here, but yeah, it's got a, this is sycamore. I don't know how close we can see. It's got this pretty lacy grain. It's kind of cool, but when you put any kind of finish on it, that all just goes away. And it's a shame, because it's got a really cool finish, but I haven't been able to keep this finish by putting a finish on it. Does that make sense? Changes colors. So anyway, I'm going to bring all of them down. Well, it doesn't really matter what thickness I bring them down to. I'm going to bring the rest of them down till they're kind of flat and see what we got. So pull down a couple more from the attic. And now with these 5 boards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I have enough to go the whole length of the room, plus a few extra feet. So now I'm going to cut a straight edge on each one and then figure out my maximum width. It's probably going to be this board's probably the smallest, and rip them all the same. I need to do something more accurate than that when I go to put them down. Not really sure how I'm going to get accurate widths. I mean, I can get it pretty accurate with the saw, but for now, for gluing up the second layer, this will be good enough. Okay, that was a lot of planing and sawing, but I got my 5 boards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That should reach all the way across the room. Now I'm going to pick the top, the side I want up, which is this side, and I'm going to glue 2 strips. I'm going to glue 2 strips under it to get it to thickness. Actually, it'll be over thickness. I'll have to plane them again. And that will allow me some meat to put my spline joints on the edge, and it'll bring the new boards to the same thickness as the existing boards, because, you know, most of the existing boards I'm going to reuse. There's only a couple of really bad ones. And I'm going to put 2 little strips on the bottom instead of 1 wide strip, because it doesn't make any difference. That way I was able to use up the marginal pieces of sycamore that I planed up. So I don't have enough clamps, but I can get started. So I had enough clamps and doublers to clamp 3 boards up. Tomorrow I got to plane some more to make the doublers for that. And if I start early in the morning, I can probably do 3 clamps in one day, because this yellow glue set's pretty quick. Although I probably won't have that many more to clamp right now. I got to prepare some more wood. So anyway, we're off to a good start, and we'll get after it again tomorrow. This is my next victim. It's a piece of oak. It's got some bolt holes in it, but that's not a problem. I can get about a little bit less than 10 inches out of it. It's pretty thin. By the time I plane it, it's going to be like really thin. So the backing board will have to be pretty thick and maybe a little wider to give it some strength. But if I don't use it now, it's never going to get used, because it's been up there forever. So I'm going to rip it and then plane it and then see what it looks like. By watching the board against the fence, it's really easy to tell if it's straight or not. If it touches the fence and doesn't touch the fence, and touches the fence and doesn't touch the fence, it's not straight. If it touches the fence the whole way, it's straight enough for me to use as flooring. I've made that proclamation. So this is kind of what I did for the next 2.5 weeks. I straightened the edges of boards, planed them down, planed down the existing floor and new floor. Well, I shouldn't say new, it's not a new board, but boards that were not originally on the floor. And I made buckets and buckets and buckets of sawdust. Well, it's kind of thin. It finished out at 3/4 of an inch, which means if I put a 1-inch backing board, I'll be able to get my 1.5 inches. I know it's not perfect, but I'm gonna need some short boards, so maybe I can get a little piece out of this one. We're gonna use it. I got another piece of oak from the attic. again, this is a weird one. It's real thick on this side. It's much thinner on this side. It's got a busted end, so I could use the whole length and get this width, or I could cut it here and get a wider width. I think I'm gonna cut it because this end is twisted anyway. So we'll get rid of the twisty part and we'll plane down this side. It's gonna take a bunch of passes because I gotta remove so much stuff. I don't know how else to do that. So before I started this project, I took all the teeth out of this planer. I think there's like 100 of them. And I checked them all and I discarded 20 of them, bought 20 new little teeth. They're little square teeth that you can turn around 4 times. So the planer was in pretty good shape. I put new blades in my hand planer. I put new blades on my table saw. Just getting ready. I ended up changing the table saw blade 2 more times because some of these boards are just so hard. They even wear the carbide teeth. Of course, I don't get good blades. I get Home Depot blades, but still, I did a lot of cutting. The blades in the thickness planer held up pretty well. Like I say, the blades on the table saw, they didn't hold up so well. I kept having to change them. Otherwise, I would just get burnt mark all the way down the board. So I had a lot of these, like basically 1x4. They're oak and they're dry and they're full of nail holes and they're basically worthless. They've been in the attic since I built the house. But they're good for this because they're oak and they're dry. So I used them for my doublers, and I just kind of wanted to get a straight edge, so when I glued it, the edge of the doubler would more or less match the edge of the plank I was gluing it to. I wish I had a few more of these because they worked out real good. I ended up cutting some decent boards up just because I needed a hardwood doubler at the end. Sunday morning. Yesterday was kind of a chopped up day, but I did manage to glue the remaining 2 planks of the first run that will run all the way across the room. And I did manage to glue up these big 2 oak planks, which are just random. I don't have a finished width for them. So now all 7 of these are ready to be planed down to 1.5 inches. That's where we're going to start from. And I have a big, huge one up in the attic. That's it's sycamore, but it's from another tree. It's a really pretty board. And I'm going to do that one today, but I don't want to do that, pull that one down till all of these are planed to their final thickness, 1.5 inches. So my 2 wider oak planks I got planed down to 1.5 inches, final thickness, I think. I'm not going to rip the width because I don't know what row I'm going to end up using them on, and they're all a little bit different. So when I rip them, it'll be wherever they're going to get replaced, wherever they're going to go. Now these 5 make a whole row all the way across, so they need to be the same size. And they were pretty accurate before I glued the little thing on the bottom, but some of these, I can feel the lip, it's like sticking out, and some of them are sticking in. This one's sticking out a little bit. So I think I'm going to pass through the saw again and take a 1/16 off one side and a 1/16 off the other side just to make sure they're straight. And then I don't think I'm going to have to do anything else to them. So when I thickness planed them, the same with the oak. First I did the bottom to the knives to make sure that this was flat. And then I planed the face side to get rid of the dents from the C-clamps. And then whatever else I needed to get rid of, I went back to the back and just planed away until they all got to be 1.5 inches thick. So now I'm going to rip all 5 of them. They were 6. Now I'm going to rip them 5 and 15/16 and then take another 1/16 off and do the other side. Okay, that went well. I think that's all the straightening I'm going to have to do on any of the boards, is maybe just pass them through the saw a couple of times. So now I'm going to cut them to square the ends up, and I have enough material here so I can cut the snipe off that the thickness planer leaves sometimes, especially coming out of the planer. I'm going to go trim them all square in, and these will be good, except that at some time I want to fill all the bug holes with epoxy before I bring them in the house. So that'll be one less thing I have to do in the house. Like here's a little knot hole. And I'll go trim them and stack them, and then we'll get the David Chapman memorial board in here, see what we can do with it. So David Chapman was a friend and a co-worker. I worked with him for about 15 years. Super good guy. Could operate anything, cranes included. He was a certified welder. He worked hard. He had discipline. Just all around pleasure to work with. And He lost his wife about 1.5 years ago, and just recently he committed suicide, which caught everybody off guard because nobody was expecting it. He was still fairly young, very fit, handsome guy. Yeah, just went to the funeral. Pretty much a shocker. But anyway, the pecan tree that was in the woods of a friend of his property, he helped me get this log out. The little tractor that was on site, it was a monumental achievement. This was decades ago, and this is the last plank I have from that pecan log, and I'm going to incorporate it into the floor, and every time I see it I'll think of Dave and how much I miss him. But it is a mammoth hunk of wood. So the David Chapman plank is 15 feet long and 15 inches wide. The widest plank I have in my floor is 12. By the time I take it out and clean the edges and put it back, it's probably gonna be 11 and a half. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut this end off. It's real knotty and wavy. I don't know how much would be left by the time I planed all that out. I'm gonna cut the other end off because it's got a split in it. And then I'm gonna rip it to 11 3/4, and then I'm gonna plane it. It should come out really pretty. I'm gonna do something different on this plank. It's got a crown in it all the way down. And if I just start planing on it to get this crown out and get the back flat, I'm gonna end up with a board like a 1/2 inch thick. So I'm gonna rip this board right down the middle, plane each separately, and then glue it back together. And it'll be the only board in the floor that's gonna have a glue joint. But I think if I do a decent job, I don't think it'll be noticeable. But I don't want to turn this whole board into sawdust, so I'm going to split it. So I cut it with the table saw. It wasn't particularly straight because I was going off this rough edge. And I planed it and I put it back up here to see what the damage was going to be. And it pulls up almost perfectly. So I'm going to glue it. I'm not going to do anything else to the joint. It came straight off the table saw. Okay, this is the last board I'm going to prep for the floor. And this is the David Chapman memorial board that I ripped in half and re-glued. And just in case, I've glued 5 little plywood little braces just to make sure nothing happens. No funny business happens with it splitting back open. And when, give it just about 2 hours. When the glue dries, I'll put it over there. We'll do a cleanup. Use the random orbital to cut the paint and the caulk between the shoe base and the baseboard, between the baseboard and the wall, to cut the door plinth blocks loose so that I could get them off without breaking or without ripping the sheetrock off the wall. And it actually worked pretty good. I should be able to just clean up all the boards and put them all right back, including most of the shoe base. Some of it I'll have to replace, but the majority of it came off pretty good. So this first one gave me a false sense of hope about how easy this was going to be, because we just pried on it a little bit. The nails came out and the board came up. Wasn't to be that easy for the rest of them. I'm pulling up this floor, buddy.
What?
I'm pulling up the floor.
Now you're pulling it up a nail?
Yep, the whole floor. And these two are glued together, so they make it kind of challenging. So the little plank in this walkway would have been the very last plank I put in, except maybe the plank at the other doorway. And so it wasn't toenailed or screwed toenailed, it was face nailed, nails straight down into the 2x2 sleepers. And they were big nails, but it did come up. It came up without breaking, actually. Just had to work at it a little bit. And then the plank that runs parallel with the bricks, it had no mechanical fasteners whatsoever, and I remember putting it down. I cut it like a 1/4 inch wider than it needed to be with like a bevel on the brick side, so only the top of the board would touch the brick. And I took a mauling block of wood and just beat the crap out of it and beat it into place. So it was like what the machinists would call an interference fit, and it stayed down all these years, and it was still kind of tight. So we got these first 2 rows up, and the next row, I presume I couldn't fit the drill to put screws in it, so it's toenailed, but it's with nails, not with screws. I don't remember exactly why I did that. I can only assume that I just couldn't fit the drill.
Are you gonna bring that red like that you're on?
Yeah.
But those two would be.
So Colin, my oldest son, happened to be here on this day when I started, and it was great to have him help me carry these old heavy boards. But unfortunately, this was the last day that anybody was here to help me. My sons have jobs and families and activities and sports, and I don't like to ask them for help because I know they have full lives and they got other things to do. If I was in a bind, I would ask them, but anything I can do myself, I prefer to do myself and let them live their lives. Yep, I'm not sure. So clean up those 2 rows. I'll put the first row down.
The slab, knowing that you were going to recess.
Yes, the slab is
this floor.
Yeah.
Where's my dad?
Where's your dad?
Yeah.
You don't have a dad.
Let's see.
You have a dad?
Dad,
But
what are you doing?
looking at Bobby's mess.
So when I get the first row back in place, fastened, I'll take up this row and I'll put down the second row. And this time I'm going to be anchored this way. And I'll work my way across the room.
What, you're taking away all of this?
All of them, buddy.
But
See
then how,
all the cracks? Gotta fix all the cracks.
Yeah, it's kind of ugly.
then how are you going to get the ones under this couch?
You're going to come help me move it because you're pretty strong and you're 7 now.
No, I'm fat. Well, I'm supposed to be 5 today.
Yeah.
Right, Dad?
Nope.
Oh, Dad,
What?
remember the plane thing?
Oh, that's right. I actually told him that. If he's 5
That make
on
a difference?
Southwest, the family can board before everybody else. If not, we're going to be in 3 separate seats. So yes, you are correct. You're 5 today.
You don't miss nothing, do you, really? It'd be crooked with a kid around to catch everything.
Yep.
Well, but tomorrow I'll leave.
Tomorrow you can be 7 again. Just
Yeah.
today you'd be 5. On the flight back will be an American Airlines where we have 6, so you don't have to be 5 on the flight.
So we started out vacuuming all the dust between the boards. I got black visqueen down. It was all in remarkably good condition. But as time went on, our standards. Okay, I started today. Now, what did I learn? Well, I learned the trim came off easily without damage, so I got it taped up. I'm going to stack it out here and get it out of the way. I learned that the 2 thresholds were face nailed straight down into these sleepers, so they were pretty hard to get out, and this one cracked. These 2 boards are glued together like one, and this cracked a little bit, but I can glue this back together, and this can go right back in the same size as it is. I'll just run it through the planer one time, take 1/16 of an inch off the surface. This is the other threshold that went into the dining room. That one went into the foyer where the stair is. This one went into the dining room. Again, it was face nailed, and I'll probably drill these, countersink these, and use screws. Now I didn't use screws back in the day, but and it wasn't glued to the other board, or if it was, it came loose. So just clean that up a little bit. And the main deck boards, the first row was either face nailed or not fastened at all. The one against the brick, there were just no fasteners. It was just jammed in, and I thought I remembered doing that. I just cut this angle here, and with a block of wood and a maul, I just shoved it down real tight. And then the second row was toenailed with nails and not screws. And I think that was because it was so close to the wall, I couldn't get the drill and the bit tip and the screws in place, so I just nailed it. I'm gonna have to pull those. And I had painted all the backs of them. I didn't realize I did that. I guess to keep the moisture from making them warp, since the top was going to be sealed and then the bottom is now sealed. And for the most part, they didn't warp. They just shrunk over the years. And what else? The groove that's in them is not what I was thinking it was. The groove is a 1/2 inch wide and less than a 1/2 inch deep. So it's kind of square in cross section, which made it kind of, well, I don't know. I guess it would have been all right. I guess it is all right. But maybe I cut the loose splines kind of short. A lot of them are all the way out. I don't think that'll be a problem next time, because my boards are now hopefully dry after being inside for 20 years. So what I got to do, what I need to do, what I'm going to do is plug all these with glue and a spline, cut them flush, and then recut the spline with a different kind of bit, because they all need to be the same distance from the surface to the spline for the surface to be flat. And some of the boards are going to require more surfacing and therefore shims on the bottom. So if I don't reference the top with the spline cutter with the router, I'm gonna go into this more in a little bit. So right now I'm gonna see what I gotta do to trim. See, like here's the spline and it's kind of broken, but it wasn't glued in. I don't know, I might have my hands full. This is a lot of work. Glad I got my boards in the shop before it started raining, because it's raining pretty hard. Here I'm ripping some cypress 1/2 by 1/2. This is to plug the existing routed grooves on both edges of the existing planks. I just want to fill those holes up so I can start over. And most of these ended up in the garbage because we changed our plan. So yesterday was day 1 of renovating these planks, and it was like as inefficient as it possibly could be. They're so big, they take up room. I was able to efficiently rip up a bunch of strips to glue up the old rabbit. So that was efficient. But other than that, these things are so big and heavy, I needed to get them up on edge. Of course, it was storming yesterday, so this morning I made a little holder thing so I could stand them up on the edge outside as long as it's not raining. And I gotta plane these down flat and then use the table saw. So nothing could be in here because it blocks the table saw, and I need access to the thickness. I don't know, it's too much stuff. I think I would like to have 2 more sawhorses in my carport. I could do this gluing in the carport, because all it takes is a glue bottle and a hammer and a little handsaw to cut them to length. So I have sawhorses over at the foundry. I think I'll go get them, bring them over here, set up the same kind of thing with the little notched plywood to hold them up vertically. That'll help. And get my truck out of the carport, take the boards out of the house, clean the joint, which is just a wire brush, glue in the little filler, and then bring them back here, set them outside, and with the porta hand plane, I'm gonna knock them down and get one side straight, and then match the other side with the table saw, and then do the thickness planer, and then I'm gonna trim the ends with a router, I think. Yeah, anyway, I'm still working this out. We don't have a system yet, but can't go any worse than it did yesterday. All right, this is my first row. This is the row against the brick wall, and this is gonna be the worst fit out of all the rows, because I couldn't parallel them up with the table saw, because apparently the brick wall is whopped, so they were tapered and bent. So I had to straighten out this side with just the little power plane and a straight edge. So it's pretty straight, but it's not going to be as straight as later runs where I could straighten them with the table saw on both sides. But anyway, it's these 4 boards plus my new one. Got all the gaps plugged with some. I'm ready to route the new rabbit, but I want to get the top flat first, so I'm going to run them all through the planer, and hopefully I can run them all just one pass and get them flat again. And they'll be really close to 1.5 inches. Got 2 new router bits. One is to plow the groove for the spine, and one is to trim the ends flush or square. I pulled my router out of my router table, and I actually found the right base for it, and using the other router for this, so I don't have to switch. They both gonna get set up one time and not touched for the duration, hopefully. I made a super simple little jig to cut the ends square. It's just a piece of plywood. It's got a board here that's at a right angle to a board here, so I slide it until it hits, and the router bit cuts right there where you see. So you just line it up. I just want to shave minimal, but actually my planks go under the baseboard and this U-base on both ends, so I really almost have 2 inches I could cut if I had to, but I'm just trying to trim them square so we can start this square and straight as we can. So this is my very first end trim. Took a little bit for me to get the kinks out. You have to push the router in the right direction to keep the bit forcing the router against the guide. If you go the wrong way, the bit wants to pull the router away from the guide, and you get a wavy cut where it just doesn't cut all the way flush with what it needs to cut. Anyway, it took me a little bit to get comfortable doing this, but after I did a couple of them, this went pretty good, and I could cut a lot on each plunge because the bit is sharp and it's nice. So there's no way I could have got an edge that well with my skill saw or the miter saw, because the boards are too long to fit over there, and they're too long for the sled on the table saw. So this takes a second, but this gives me a really square end. This is the only clip I have of cutting the groove for the splines. This was not a very good router bit. It got dull pretty quickly. I resharpened it a few times with some little diamond boards, but yeah, it was a struggle, and the little router is not as strong as I was thinking it should have been. So I had to go slow, take multiple passes, made a lot of noise, made a lot of dust. It was pretty unpleasant, but it was idiot proof because you just cut until a little bearing hits on the bottom, it won't cut anymore. So yeah, this is part of the project that I really didn't enjoy because I really don't like that screaming noise, even though I have earmuffs on. Well, the first row is in the house and it's screwed down and it's done. And I didn't feel much because it kind of kicked my booty. About anything that could have gone wrong went wrong. The second row I'm getting ready to work on, and it should be way simpler than the first row. That brick wall had all the planks different widths, and toward the end the concrete kind of bucked up. Anyway, this row should be much easier. 3 planks. I got that one that I did some repair on and it's good. And this long one, it weighs 100 pounds, and the little short one. Now all I need to do is run it through the table saw. Pick the straightest side. Neither side is straight. This side we plugged the existing rabbit, I guess it's called a rabbit, with some boards, and they stick out different widths, so, but it's straighter than this side. So I'm gonna run it through the table saw, this on the fence, and cut maybe 1/8 of an inch off of this side, and then this side will get a little straighter. And then I'll flip it over and take 1/8 of an inch off of this side, and then it'll get a little straighter. And at some point, I'll be able to run the board through, and the blade won't miss a beat, and it'll have a straight side, and I can use that to reference and cut a straight side on the other side. And then after all 3 of them have at least one straight side, like the short one I have a straight side on, I'll take the smallest measurement of the 3, and that's what will make that second plank. Will just be that many inches. So hope that made sense. Maybe not. So I got my 3 planks. I've got at least one straight edge on each plank. So this one is 9.5 inches wide. That one's 9.5 inches wide. And that one's like 9 5/8 inches wide. So I'm gonna set the rip fence to 9 3/8 and trim the edge that's not as good as the good edge. And that's gonna be it. I'm not gonna mess with them anymore as far as the width goes. I'm not gonna try to hand plane them or anything like that. It's gonna be good enough for a plank floor. And then I'll take the router and trim the ends, and we'll be ready to route the new joints.
First row is down. It was set with a string line as straight as I absolutely could get it, and it is screwed straight down. I've drilled and plugged the screw holes. It is pretty secure, so I can beat on it now and not have to worry about it moving all over the place.
Right now, this is the bottleneck of my progress, is having to glue strips into the old routed joints. So what I'm trying to do, like I did these yesterday, even though I had the boards inside ready to route so they could go back into the house, I stopped what I was doing and I glued this side. Now this morning, before I do anything else, I'm gonna flip these over and glue the other side. So hopefully by the time those 3 planks are back installed, this glue will be set and I can proceed with these 3 boards. That makes sense? Okay, it's almost 7:30. Well, it's 7:11, but it's time to start making some serious noise. So these 3 planks are cut to width and they're plowed to thickness. And now I need to dress the ends square and I need to run the rabbet all the way around all of them except the ones that have green paint, because they're the ones that face the wall. So make some serious noise and some serious sawdust. And this mess is just kind of getting out of hand. This plank is looking pretty good. I just cut a bunch of short 4x4s and used wedges and beat the crap out of it. I got a gap here that's bothering me, but the board's so tight it won't move, so I may need to undo this board, which took a while to get. Close that crack up. I can't close this little crack. I got a feeling this board, that this board I'm standing on is not in a straight line, although I thought it was straight with the string. So, do I screw it through the, I don't know how to fasten. Oh, before I do that, I got to put one of these little shims on every floor joist thing, because this board that my foot is on is 1/8 of an inch thinner than this board, and that was, I had to do that to get it flat. So that may be the case all the way along. Every row might be a different thickness. Anyway, this one's 1/8 inch. I got a bunch of shims cut. I'm gonna put the liquid nails and slide them under there, and I think that'll work. Let's see. I was hoping to set these boards in liquid nails, but man, it takes an hour to get them into place, so I don't think that's going to be possible.
So on the rows that required shimming up, I think they were almost easier. For one, once I got it to fit, the board to fit, I didn't have to remove it. I could pry it up and slide the shim under it, even though they were still under a lot of pressure with the blocks and the wedges. And I think it allowed me a little more wiggle room to get the joints to line up, having that I could actually go down a little bit in addition to come up a little bit. This is before I put the shims in. Now the boards that are the right thickness that I don't have to shim, I was doing a test fit to make sure that I could get them together, and then I was marking the sleepers with a pencil, removing the plank, applying the pookie, and putting the plank back. It was just an extra step. So it looks like kind of a pain to put these little shims under, but I think it turned out to be kind of a non-event. The splines for the end joints put in after the fact, after like trying the first one and realizing this wasn't going to work, and I glued them, and for the most part they went in pretty well, and they level up the ends of the 2 boards. You can see that I don't end the boards on a sleeper, they just end wherever they end, and it's not a problem with these hard boards because they're so rigid they don't really flex sticking out 18 inches or 20 inches or whatever. If they do, I test them and I put a block under each one, but probably of all the, I don't know how many joints I had, maybe 50, I think I blocked up like 3 of them because they were moving around.
That's better.
And yeah, so that's how I did the end joints.
Well, it was a battle, and I didn't film very well, but I will film more in the future. But the key was the short 4x4 blocks and wedges, and you can beat the crap out of those and get a lot of leverage. Now, I didn't make it all the way up here. Got a little crack. I can live with that. And on this end, the butt joint looked terrible, which is very disappointing. But I could not get it to close up. I beat on the end with my 12-pound maul. It wouldn't close up. But anyway, I got to make some kind of progress. So, I was able to get my shims underneath. Actually, that worked pretty good. I just pried them up with the pry bar. Put liquid nails on both sides and slid them under there. And so, yeah. So, could be worse. It could be better. Now I need to take these off. I need to take these off so I can get this plank out and bring it outside. I hope it doesn't spring out. I put some extra screws like through the top. See the holes? Because this is under a lot of pressure and I want it to bounce back. The screws through the groove did real well. Every time I put one in, I could see it go down just a little bit. So they did good. So let's move all this junk. Take this board off. Take these 2 long boards and this short board off. And bring them to the shop. So one thing that is not causing me a problem is my little buggy. My buggy is awesome. However many hours I spent building it should return tenfold. And hauling these heavy god-darn boards back and forth. Woo! To the shop. Let's see if we can't get this one in. Okay, I'm kind of getting the procedure down. First, when I bring out the boards from the house to outside, I stand them up, and if it's the female joint looking up, I fill it with a piece of my cypress that I ripped. If it's the male joint looking up, I break off any part that's not, a lot of it was broken. Like this is the male joint, and from here to here is good, but the rest of it was bad, so I pulled it out and glued that in there and glued a board in the end. See this, well, I need to put glue on that. That was original, and it needs to be glued. Then I go back to work on the boards. These need to be ripped to equal length. There's 3 of them on both, 1, 2, 3. And then plane to equal thickness. And then the end squared with the router, although it doesn't seem to make a whole lot of difference. I'm still not getting good end joints. And then we take the little router and cut a rabbet all the way around the perimeter. And then they can go back inside. And before I bring them inside, I flip these over and do the other side. I glue the other side so that either this afternoon or tomorrow, all the old joints will be filled up and I can cut them smooth. And I need that to plow the new rabbet so it'll be in good wood. So the next step is to take the power plane and knock down the cypress filler. So this would have been the female joint, and it didn't have the old pine stuck in there. So this was just an empty joint. So I put cypress in, it's real soft, it's easy to plane it down, try to get as close to the original board as I can, and then we'll run it through the table saw. So the next step, since I got this edge kind of halfway flat, will be to rip it on a table saw. And we'll go 10 inches. It looks like the board has a big old sweep in it, but we'll see when we rip it.
And then I rip it, flip it, rip it, flip it. And when I see a rip where the board never leaves the rip fence, where it's straight all the way around, I got a good edge. And then I rip it one more time on the other side.
Right, we're ready to put our second plank of the day down. I got my 3 planks. I got my splice bars. I got my shims. I got my drill. The door keeps closing. Stay. Let's see if we can get into the kitchen without something terrible happening. There we go. There we go. Okay, I'm struggling here. So I turned off the video yesterday because I was struggling. The problem is that joint with the loose spline in it. it's kind of wonky. I've been filling the old joint with wood, and sometimes that blows out when I try to route it. And there's nothing really to glue to because that joint's so dirty. So I think what I'm going to do now is just cut off the joints. Cut off the existing joints and cut back to decent wood. So I got 12 more runs. If I cut a 1/2 inch off each side, that's 12 inches. I have enough material to make 12 inches a run, to add additional material that I've glued up over the past few days. So I think I'm going to quit the tedious process of gluing a spline in this existing slot to try to seal it. It's just not working. And for some reason, I got way crooked down here on the end. So I might have to bring the router and a straight edge in and kind of straighten it up, which is going to make dust, which I promised my wife we wouldn't do in the house, but I don't know what else to do. So anyway, I'm going to make some changes. We got to get this thing flowing better than it's flowing. Okay, I'm going to try a new procedure. I'm going to put the boards on the floor without the spline and make sure that they physically fit. And then if I have a problem, I'll know it's the spline. I do have a crooked board at the end, and I don't know how it got so crooked, but it's crooked. So I'm going to try to deal with it on this row and get either, I don't know, it's going to be hard to plane that board in place. Maybe plane the new board at a point to make it, I don't know. Let's lay our little boards down and see. So in spite of the end down here not being totally straight, the plank fits pretty good. If I can get in here with my hand plane and knock off this little bump right here, maybe back a foot, I'll buy that. I'll screw it down right now if I can get that little bump off. Okay, more better acceptable fit. I ended up planing this end down too, which makes this little piece too fat. But that's okay because I can go outside and do that with the power planer. Yeah, this row has passed the seal of approval. Now the trick will be putting in the splines and getting it back in. Now, I put a bevel on one edge of the spline, so it should help me make these things up. We'll see. Okay, row number 5 is ready to go in. I got the board out of the way. I got the little sleepers cleaned up. I got the ooze that happens when I screw down the last board. The pookie oozes out, and I don't mess with it when it's sticky. I just let it get hard. Chisel that off. I got my little strips here with beveled front edges to help me. All right, we're gonna do it. We're gonna first I put the little splines in the existing board, and then we cross our fingers and see if the new board's gonna make up. First piece is made up tight, and it did not go well. Didn't want to go in the spline. I ended up taking the plank back outside and putting a bevel on the little rabbet so it could maybe find its way home better. And I took my rabbet plane and put a bigger bevel on the spline itself than what I originally had. And then it went in. Second piece looks like it's going to do fine. I don't even have it kicked off at this end, and it's made up on this end. So we're going to glue and screw this half, bring my blocks down, and keep working our way down here. And then we're going to do a 6-inch strip. That's the piece I made ahead of time with the sycamore. And yeah. And then that's going to push these receptacles over, and I don't have enough electric wire, so that's a whole different issue. We'll deal with that when we get there. So I got my first skinny piece in. It does not need the shims because it is cut the original, or it is plain the original 1.5 inches. But I forgot to put the liquid nails under it, and man, I really don't want to squeak. I'm gonna pull it off, and we're gonna do it again with the liquid nails. Day 6, row 6. I'm gonna get another row ready. I don't know where they'll get it installed or not this afternoon. I won't be available tomorrow, so it'll be Monday before I can start again. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 more full rows. So another couple of weeks. I'm gonna be my legs are gonna be strong by the time I finish this because I've been doing some squatting. Some squatting and some standing up. Woo-wee. So this green wood is poplar. Apparently it's a lot softer than this blonde wood. This is sycamore in this case, but in other cases it's all nondescript blonde wood. So it tends to squeak, it tends to move, to flex more than this. So I don't want to squeak, so I'm gonna put this board, which is covered with Pookie, under here and screw it and suck it up tight and hopefully keep these two boards from moving differentially. And that should take care of any squeaks that we might have. Don't want any squeaks. Yeah, I knew that I was gonna have to move the receptacle toward me because we added a 6-inch row back there. And I was concerned about the wire being long enough. The wire's plenty long enough. There's a divot in the concrete. So I gotta make this divot a little deeper. So I got my rotary hammer and a chisel and a vacuum cleaner. Let's proceed to pound on concrete in my house.
So I don't know exactly how these rotary hammers work. I mean, I know it chips a hole in the concrete, but there must be maybe a grease something or other, because until this hammer gets warm, it just doesn't hardly do anything. But once it warms up, it operates like a normal hammer. I don't know. Once again, age probably has something to do with it.
I think I figured this one out. People that poured this slab, placed this slab, didn't do such a great job of getting this area flat. So 21, 22 years ago when I put this floor in, I had to pull strings, and every one of these sleepers is cut up and down to match the slab and get them all at the same height. But these two are a little low on top right here. So they had pulled down this board, and I couldn't get this board low enough to make it made up. So I took the screw out and put a little bitty shim there. I'm gonna reapply my mastic and try again, dude. That's all I can do. 7:45 in the morning. No, I'm sorry, 8. What time is it? $9:45 in the morning. I got my first row laid down and screwed, and it's done. I started at 7. 2 hours and 45 minutes. And I shouldn't have had to do anything. This board was ready yesterday, and the old board was out of the way yesterday. All I should have had to do was lay it, fit it, and screw it down, but they don't always fit. And then I got it to fit, and I realized my little shims, you see a bunch of them laying down, were a little too thick, and it was making the new board come up. So I pulled them out, took the board off, cut some thinner ones, put it back, and then I realized I was out of this keyway stuff. So I had to go make some of that. Well, the next thing you know, 2 hours and 45 minutes to get a board down that should have gone right now. This stuff is testing me. So now I got to go prepare the next board. So I may or may not get another row today. Okay, didn't get far. I ran into a roadblock with the second piece. It's got a bad spot in it. I could just rip it thinner and waste a lot of wood, which I may end up doing, but I'm going to attempt just to let a board in and glue it and see how it does. If it comes out bad, I'll just make this row skinnier. Well, I don't know. It's a pretty good maybe. It's in there really, really tight. I had to pull it in with C-clamps and blocks. Then I'll put some sawdust in the cracks. So we're going to go ahead and continue to rip it to width, the same as this one, which is 10 3/4, and then work on our long one. And then all three of them should be the same width. And then we can run them through the planer. You know, for my funky old floor, I'll buy this. I think this is going to be just fine. It's not coming out, but after I cut my groove, after I wrap my groove, I'll probably put a few screws in there just for fun. But I don't think it's coming out. It was in there pretty tight. So this row I'm getting ready to pull up is 4 planks instead of 3. And that's going to be so much nicer not having a 14-footer to deal with. My shop's just not big enough for these things, but we're making do. But anyway, this row will be a pleasant change. And the next row has a long one, but they're quite a bit thinner. And the next row has a little shorty in the middle. That's kind of unusual. And then who knows? So this row is so close to 1.5 inches that I'm not going to put the little sticks under it, which means I can put the liquid nails directly on the sleepers, but I don't want to do that until I make sure that I can make them fit, because I don't want to be dealing with that sticky stuff. So I think I'm just going to fit them, and if I get those to fit, I'm going to go ahead and screw it. I'm going to go ahead and caulk it down and screw it. And then the next one, and do, instead of trying to get them all like halfway fit, I'm going to get each board to fit correctly, and then take it off, put the liquid nails, and screw it down. Plank 3 of row 11 went in really easily. Took it back off, caulked it, and screwed it. And plank 4 of row 11 went in, a little bit more work, but it's in there. So I'm going to take it off, apply Pookie, and put it back. Usually, once you get them off, they'll go back. Once they're in the first time, they'll almost always go back without a fight the second time. And it was only a medium fight. First plank of the next row fitted up, and this row is thinner than the last row. So it's going to have the little shims under it, which in a way makes it easier, because I don't have to test fit it and then take it off and then put the Pookie and put it back. I can just slide the shims in place with Pookie on both sides. So it is in place, and I'll screw these two and probably put a wedge on this end to try to close that crack up. Yeah, good stuff. So when I cut some new wedges, got another block, came in with the idea of I was going to work this thing over until it fit, hit it once with the maul and a block, and it popped right into place. It's good. It's as good as any of them. Got my little shims under it with the Pookie. I'm going to go run the 2.5 inch screws in here, and this will be the end of the second strip for the day. And it's not even 3 o'clock yet. Okay, getting close, guys and girls. And girl, probably have one girl. This plank that I just put in, and this plank that I'm getting ready to put in, are 2 of the ones that I manufactured from one biomaterial that I had up in the attic. That's going to save 2 of the original planks, which are solid all the way, which I can rip to close in the end, because it looks like I'm going to need, I don't know, maybe a 6-inch strip all the way down, which I don't have, but I'll have some of it. I'll probably have to manufacture some more strips to fill in that joint between the last board and the brick. I don't think I showed the anchors that are anchoring these sleepers to the slab. These are called split drives. You drill a 1/4 inch hole and you hammer them in there. And they are like herpes. They are forever. I'm trying to see if I have another one visible. No, yeah. Here's one. They're idiot proof, and they don't ever, 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 ever come out. If you want to get them out, you have to cut them off. And they're cheap, but I don't see much of them. I don't see them at Home Depot. It's just something we used to use on the job sites to anchor boards to concrete. And they're the way to go. You don't want to worry about getting them out later.
So I made a few changes along the way that really helped out a lot. One is that if I could hammer the spline in from the end, I would do it. Even a long piece, it was easier to hammer the spline in from the end than to try to make the board up onto the spline, because these these hardwood boards, if they have an 1/8 of an inch bow up or down, you can stand on them all you want, but you can't get that bow out. It makes it really difficult to fit them up. Anyway, I made this change, and then at some point I just quit trimming the ends off of the boards if they had a decent the original 1/2 inch joint, and I just went with the original joint because my joints weren't doing any better than the old joints. So this is my first row here, and I'm gluing up a piece of 1/2 by almost 1 inch, and I'm getting ready to drive it in there to see if I've made a mistake or not. If it goes in, we're good. And you can see one side's a little low. I'm just pry up a little bit with the pry bar and try to get this thing in there and hammer it home. And it worked. So that saved a lot of time, not having to trim the ends and reroute the ends, or trying to glue the ends solid and routing the ends. So this was a big time saver, and I don't think I sacrificed any quality doing this.
was a good decision. That's probably a lot better than what I was doing before with my little sticks. So it's easier and probably better. Win-win.
And probably on row 2, I started putting a bevel on the spline just to help it slip in there a little better or make it a little less of a pain to get it in there. And I was doing it on the bench with a little plane, and it did okay. It's hard to hold. It's hard to keep from taking a hunk out of my finger. So toward the end, I went ahead and put the spline in square, and I took a much bigger plane and took a bigger bevel. And even though I had to do it on my hands and knees, it just worked out better. It holds the spline tighter, and I was getting a more substantial bevel.
Stop record.
And just like that, the floor's down. 2 weeks and 2 days of putting boards down. I still need to plug all the bung holes from the screws. I need to do trim around the perimeter between like the floor and the brick because the old ones are all broken. And we need to see what the floor guys are going to do. I'm hiring out the finishing. So anyway, this video has gone on way too long, and thanks for watching.